You
Yeah.
can take it out if you want.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle, for inviting me up here. Thank you for the rainy weather when I landed, so it didn't shock my Juno system coming up to Anchorage. Um, I'm going to talk about large whale entanglement. Let me see my next up here. Oh yeah, large whale entanglement. First, I'm going to go into a little bit about what large whale entanglement is, how we deal with it, and I'm going to jump into a case study. This is the humpback whale, juvenile humpback whale that was entangled in Port Valdez this summer. So, see, people are still eating, but we're going to have a few gruesome slides. So what is entanglement? It is what it is. Whales get caught up in gear. They get caught up in fishing gear. They get caught up in mooring lines, log booms, sometimes anchor chains, just anything that gets wrapped up in a whale. And we specialize in large whale disentanglement. And then, but so why is this bad? How does this harm the whale? Well, looking at this picture here, it's obvious. There is physical trauma to the animal. This is some pretty heavy gauge line. Oh, I do have a pointer, and it's cutting into the flukes of this whale. Again, these are kind of gruesome pictures, but I think they really show the impact of what's happening to these animals. Physical trauma, initially when they get caught in the gear, that can happen. Here's another shot, a close-up, just a thin line, and you picture like some fishing line or a thin line wrapped tight around your hand, kind of cutting into it. These are cyamids or whale lice. I'll talk about those more. Again, just cutting into the flesh with the pressure of the line and the tension on it. Infections can happen. This is a juvenile North Atlantic right whale. We have North Pacific right whales. There's only 30 or 50 or so left, but there's only about 300 of these guys left in the North Atlantic. It was a juvenile. Kind of thought a minor entanglement here, just around the pectoral flipper here. Not a big deal. The problem is this animal is still growing, and it grew into that line. The line started cutting in, the animal got infected, and the animal died. Again, each one of these animals is very valuable. There's so few left. They're a really big deal in the Northeast. Drowning. Large whales don't often drown. This is a humpback whale calf on Douglas Island near Juneau. It got wrapped up in gill nets. Most of the time, whales are big and strong. They can pull the gear off. They drag it around. Even these heavy crab pots. Drowning is rare, but it can happen, especially with juvenile animals. This animal was completely wrapped. It couldn't swim, and it perished. Associated impacts. So once you're tangled up in the gear, other things can happen. This animal was previously hit by a ship, vessel strike. You can see the prop marks across the back. They got caught up in some other line. So when the whales are immobile, they're more vulnerable to ship strikes, maybe predation by killer whales, getting caught up in other gear, picking up more gear as they go. So just another downside of being caught up in gear. An overall deterioration of health. So I mentioned those cyamids. This is a humpback whale. They're supposed to be kind of dark black and gray. All this white on the animal are these cyamids that have just spread. So usually humpback whale, sometimes that breaching you see or tail slapping, that's knocking off the extra cyamids or the whale lice. In this case, the animal's semi-immobile. It's compromised by towing gear, and these whale lice just took over the whole animal. Here's a gray whale, entangled gray whale, and you can just see, that can't be fun for the animal, just completely covered in whale lice. But the biggest threat is starvation. These whales are large. They have good reserves. Humpbacks can do a 3,000, whatever, 4,000-mile trip to Hawaii, however far that is, a 30-day trip and back without feeding. They're not going to starve immediately, which is good for us because it buys us time. You don't have to rush out there in the first, 10 minutes to try to save the animal. You got time. You got, weeks sometimes. And sometimes the animals will shed the gear on their own. But eventually it is starvation that gets them. They can't feed properly. It's harder to migrate. This is a humpback whale towing some, I think this is pot gear. That's the back of the skull. These are the scapulas, and that's the spine. This whale is slowly starving, and it wouldn't make if it wasn't freed. And here's a gray whale that's been entangled, super, super skinny. This is why you could think of the old time sailors seeing a sea serpent. If they saw a starving whale, it looks pretty snake-like. Okay, so why do we respond? Like, why do we care? Obviously, we care about the animal's health. Um, we want to release some of the whales. We're not going to be able to save all the whales all the time. Human safety is always our first priority in responding. Um, if somebody gets hurt, it shuts us down. The whole process will not happen if there's injuries. That's just the way the government works. So releasing some of the whales. We want to provide a well thought out, experienced response to these animals, authorized. Um, you don't just want anyone going out there and starting to cut on a whale. And it happens. People go out there. You see in the YouTube videos where somebody jumps on the back of the whale and cuts it free, or they cut the trailing buoy off the whale. We don't want to see that. First of all, it's super dangerous for the people doing it, and then you're probably not helping the whale. Before we do any cuts on an animal, we are analyzing the whole situation. Which cut do you make first? How do you don't want to just, set the animal free and have it take off with a lethal wrap in the mouth. So well thought out, experienced, and legally authorized response. And that's partially to protect the public from just, if we don't do something, somebody's going to go do something. That's just the way people react. We want to increase public awareness of the situation. Extra gear in the water. How can we make gear safer? What can we do to prevent these entanglements? And then just gather information. Whenever we do an entanglement response, we get all the gear. We try to figure out whose gear it is, where it was set, what kind of gear, how long. Was it lost gear? Was it repurposed? And we put that all into our database, and that lets us know, like, what can we do? Where are these entanglements happening? Is it gill netters? Is it, longliners? Who's causing this? And how can we prevent that in the future? How can we mitigate the problems? Okay, so who can respond? There's 5 levels of responders that can do different things. And I think David Jenkin he's gone through the training. He's, I believe, a level 2 responder. Someone's going to run through what each level can do and how you get there, kind of. Okay, level 1 and level 2. I'll put a web link up at the end of the talk. Anyone who can go to online training and become a level 1 responder. And we just want people out there that, how do you take a photo? We don't want you getting close, don't want you doing anything that's risky, but we do want you to be able to document things and how to document things well and what is useful for the responders. And that comes into the whole idea of a team effort that I mentioned in the title. It takes a team. Everybody that's out there, from doing logistics to, the initial reporter to somebody sending us a photo, that all helps. It makes it easier to save the animals. So, yeah, level 1 and level 2, they're with the program. They know what the deal is, as opposed to somebody that's just out there on their boat taking pictures. Level 3s, they can approach the animal closer than 100 yards. They may be allowed to attach a telemetry buoy onto the animal, but they're not making any cuts. Get a little bit closer and maybe use some GoPros underwater, that type of stuff, but still they're not doing any cutting. So level 4s are the first level that are actually authorized to do any work on the animal. So I'm a level 4. There's not many of us in Alaska right now. And I can work on any species except for a North Atlantic right whale and probably a North Pacific right whale, but there's just not enough of them for us to worry about, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, for North Atlantic right whales are a special case. They can be kind of dangerous. And then level 5 is the same as level 4, but they can work on any large animal, any large whale. Okay, so here's what we have for permitted people in the country, in the US. So you can see there's not very many of us. There's only, in the Pacific, which includes Alaska, Hawaii, there's only 7 level 4s and only 1 level 5 who's in Hawaii. That's Ed Lyman. He actually came up for the Valdez whale. He's actually flown up from Hawaii for a couple responses for different entanglements. And right now, I think at the moment, I'm the only person in Alaska that's authorized to make cuts on the whales. There's 3 or 4 other people, but I think we're down to 2 now, and he's in Washington right now. So very limited number of people that are actually authorized to make the cuts. And the reason we have all these levels, it's dangerous. This Joel Howlett, he in 2017, he was experienced. He'd worked with right whales a lot. He made the final cut on a right whale, and the right whale's flukes flipped up. He was in a small boat. We do this thing, it's called the Nantucket sleigh ride. You kind of hook into the animal and you pull yourself up because whales aren't very good at backing up. And you reach out with a long pole and you start making your cuts. Um, he was doing an approach. I guess you can see a rescue boat there in the corner. He came up, made the final cut on the whale. And the final cut on the whale knows something's different and that there's a big behavior change. In this case, he made the cut. And right whales are super flexible. The whale brought his flukes up over his head and just smashed him in the front of the boat, just crushed him, killed him instantly. That shut down the whole program in Canada and in the U.S. for months. And that's where you put this this 5-tiered level for responders into place. Yeah, there was the death just shut things down. Okay, they're big animals. They're dangerous. You know, I always think about trying to pull a porcupine quill out of your dog's mouth. He probably doesn't want to cooperate with you. You know, they'll fight back. These animals are scared, they're stressed out, and they're big. People get highly motivated, emotional. You know, we got to save this animal. We got to get out there. We got to do something. Jump in the water, cut it free. You know, you need cool, clear heads. You want to be thinking about every move you make. And if it doesn't work, you can't do it. Our motto is all to go, one for no. One person says no, you stop the operation. We have limited resources, time, money. Alaska's a big state. It's hard to get places. The weather is hard. You know, there's not very many of us that are authorized to do it. So resources are tough. And it's pretty rare. We only have, you know, average 8 responses a summer. So it's hard to get people trained up, new people involved. And again, the ultimate goal is not to free every animal. So we come onto an animal and we make an assessment. You know, what gear do we have? What's the weather? What's our daylight like? What's our crew like? Our assets? How is the animal acting? Is it calm? Is it excited? Is it going to free itself eventually? And these are just some underwater shots. Here's a wrap through the mouth. This is actually a Dutch harbor whale that we responded to. It's completely wrapped up around the flukes. And then this might be the same whale in that this line forms a bridle up to the mouth. It was a pretty tricky case that we got to. And I actually flew to Dutch harbor to work on this animal. And the Dutch harbor crew, it was great. And we have a lot of specialized tools that most people don't have. I'll just run through these real quick. This is a flying cutting grapple. We use this one in the Valdez response. Tied to a line, throw it. It's got blades and spider cone blades inside. Another cutting you use, flying jam cutter. This one is a knife that attaches to a line. You hook it on there, it can break off your pole, and you can get away from the animal. I like that one a lot. Just a grapple that we use to attach this telemetry buoy. If we can't get to the animal in one day, we attach a telemetry buoy to the trailing gear, and we can track it and find it. Lightweight fixed knife, we use this one a lot too. On a long pole, you just reach out there and you start making your cuts in the right spot. And then your PPE, you always have helmet, gloves. We don't use the masks in Alaska very often. They do in Hawaii. Nice sharp spider cone knife at your side in case you get caught in the entanglement. You want to be able to reach out and cut yourself out fast. And then I just saw this, which is a conference, and they're working on using drones. There's a video here. I'm not sure if that's going to play. Doesn't matter. They're using drones to make the cuts now. They haven't done it yet, but they're working on it. So you've got these heavy drones. They'll drop this is just a setup here, a test one. They drop the cutting grapple inside this thing, and they use the drone to kind of set the hook and grab it. And if it doesn't cut, they've got this dual release here. They just drop a buoy, and the drone flies away. It's promising using technology to help us out. Okay, so I just want to run through this case study. I'm doing okay on time. This is 4th of July weekend, Valdez. Humpback whale, we determined it was life-threatening situation. So if it's not life-threatening, we might not respond as fast. We got to report the gear was a shrimp pot, a subadult or juvenile. We weren't really sure at the time. We didn't know the sex of the animal. And this was really a team effort from the community, the Coast Guard. Everybody really helped out to get this done. And I'm listing a lot of names. Hopefully I don't forget anybody, but a lot of people helped out, and I just wanted to acknowledge all of them. And of course, this is all done under permit. You know, we have a permit from the Marine Mammal Health and Stranding Network that allows us to do this. So It is all permitted activity. And just guess while we're here, this is our visibility. I'll show you more on that later. It was not great visibility for responding to this whale. Okay, so I'm going to kind of run through the timeline here. We get a call about 1500. I think it was Colleen Stevens called in and said there's an entangled whale at Valdez. We're like, okay, you sure? You know, that's our first response. You sure it's not kelp? You sure? You know, and by 6 o'clock, you know, okay, they know what they're talking about. We believe them. There's an entangled whale. We decide to come up with a plan, our plan of attack. We make the plan. We don't want it. We're both in Juneau. As Ed Lyman and myself are in Juneau. We're discussing what we're going to do. But we want to make sure the whale's still there in the morning. So we're waiting for a call from the Coast Guard from anybody to know, is the whale still there? So about 7:30 in the morning, we get the call. The whale is there. Okay, we're going to go. Now we got to make tickets. Getting to Valdez, 4th of July weekend is not easy. We could not figure out how to get to Valdez. I don't know. I don't know if it's Raven that's flying in there, who's flying in there. They weren't flying in there. Luckily, Ed was smart enough to book a hotel room the night before, just out of the chance we went there. So we had a hotel for one night, and we started making plans through the government, trying to get flights through the government process. We started about 7:30, and we're trying to catch a 10:13 flight to Cordova. So all this has happened. The logistics are just challenging to get to Valdez. I don't know why Valdez is so hard, but it was. So the plan is Coast Guard's going to meet us. We talked them to bring in their 45-foot boat, patrol boat to Cordova to pick us up in Cordova. We make tickets, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, rush to the airport and jump on the milk run to Cordova. Get to Cordova, and then, yeah, Raven Cunningham, like, it's not, you wouldn't think it's a big deal getting from the airport in Cordova to the harbor, but, you know, it's just one less thing we have to think about. She met us there right when the plane came. All of our gear gets loaded into her truck with her baby and her new puppy. And we meet the Coast Guard. They got there shortly after we got there. And we blast off to Valdez. And I don't know why they didn't go inside, take the inside path. They kind of stayed in the tanker lanes the whole way there, which is, they're all young guys, and we weren't as young as we pounded pretty hard, but they got us there. They just kind of took the harder route, but they were great. They were awesome. So we get to Valdez, and so it's just a little more than like 24, just over 24 hours after we got the first call. We are on scene in Valdez. Getting there was not easy. Getting out of Valdez was even harder. Okay, so we get to Valdez. The Alaska team showed us where the whale was. They're well inside the security zone now. The whales, here's the whale. I think that's the old terminal. I'm not sure what you guys call that. It's semi-anchored. It's got gear on it. We're not sure. They said it's a shrimp pot, but it seems more immobile than a shrimp pot. It can move, but it's not moving fast. And that's our visibility. So we put a camera on our cutting pole. So we have a little live feed that we can see, and like, where are we cutting? We couldn't see anything. So basically what we wound up doing is the whale was super cooperative at this time. We're just feeling blind. We're getting up to the whale and running a knife down the side, trying to find a line to cut. Just can we feel anything? Because we can't see anything. We never really saw the entanglement. We can see a little yellow buoy floating at the surface, and that's it. We feel like we made a couple cuts, like we felt something cut. We're using the fixed hook on a pole, basically just running down the side of the whale, trying to feel it. I think I got something, maybe I got a cut. I don't know, because I can't see anything. Got a little nick of skin one time. Usually the angle's not steep enough. You can't hurt the whale, but this is a smaller whale, but the skin sample is good for genetics, just a tiny piece. So we saved that for genetics to identify the whale. But basically we could not see any gear, and we're going by braille. We tried a bunch of times, maybe did a couple cuts, maybe made some progress, but it was a little bit frustrating. And the wind's starting to pick up a little, it's getting choppy. Let's see. So now it's 7:15. The whale is not cooperating so much anymore. It's tired of us, and that's one thing that we want. When we get on the scene, we don't want people approaching the whale too much. You burn out the whale. Like we call it using up your approaches. You only get so many chances at that whale before the whale says, okay, I had enough. I'm sick of you. And if somebody's going up there, I'm going to get a closer picture, I'm going to do this, I'm going to see what's going on before we get there, the whale is going to get tired of it. And then finally the whale just gives up. This whale was super cooperative, but it got tired of us eventually. And it moved in closer towards shore. Finally got, I think it was about 50 feet of water. I can't remember exactly. And it looked like it got hung up on something. So it was kind of in a big long circle. So we knew it had, I don't know, we were guessing between 300 and 600 feet of shrimp pot gear is what we were assuming. But it got hung up. So now it's in a circle. We could kind of predict its pattern. We couldn't get close to it anymore. So then we switched to the flying grapple, flying cutting grapple. And this is Ed. He's throwing that grapple out there. And he's going to just go blind. He's going to throw it behind the whale. He doesn't want to hook the whale because we know it's a young whale and the edges might be a little bit small. He could hook it. And so he's throwing it out there and he's pulling it in, trying to feel something, trying to feel that line and make the cut. I think he did on his first or second toss. He said, I think I got something. I felt something. I don't know if it was the bottom. It felt weird. But the whale didn't come up again. Like, okay, I know what you did, Ed. Did you put the whale down? Did you scare it? So we wait around, like, where's this whale? Where's this whale? And I think it was 20 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, I see a blow way out there, but it seems like it's too far to be our whale. So we kind of wait around a little more to see what's happening. And we don't see our whale. Like, well, we better go chase that whale and find out who it is. It was our whale. And one thing these whales do, and it's happened to me a bunch of times, you cut them and they don't even surface. They just take off, 6, 7 knots, full speed away from where they were. And that's what this whale did. We just missed the surface and he took off. We had to go catch up with it. And we couldn't get fluke IDs on it. We have a little bit of genetic sample. But if you're out there and you see a little whale with this divot in the front of his dorsal and kind of a little shark-shaped dorsal fin, let us know. That's our whale. We want to make sure he made it. So we're pretty sure that Ed made that cut, freed it, and that whale just bolted. So we're happy. We're sure that the whale is moving so fast. Like, that whale has got to be completely free. It's like there's no way he could be going cover that much ground if he was still encumbered with gear. Yeah. Okay, so now it's 8:30. We identify the whale. We're beat. We've just flown up from Juneau. It's getting up at 6 in the morning to figure this out. One person we usually have is kind of person that oversees everything, and they tell us, you guys need to stop and drink something or eat something. And we didn't have that this time, so you just get caught up in the moment and you keep going. Okay. Getting out of Valdez was our next challenge. Because now the Coast Guard doesn't care about us anymore because it's not an emergency. So they're not going to take us back to Cordova. So we spend 5th of July. 4th of July, we're done, thinking we're going to get back home for the long weekend. And these always happen on a Thanksgiving or a long weekend or something where nobody's around. We go through all of our, debriefings, trying to figure out how to get out of there, process our imagery. And then Colleen Stevens from Stan Stevens Tours said, well, we're going to Whittier on Sunday. You can get a ride with us if you give a couple little talks about what you did. I'm like, sure, anything. We were at the point where my wife was going to fly up to Anchorage from Juneau, rent a car, and pick us up and drive us back to Anchorage and Valdez. But we couldn't find any rent-a-cars. So we could not get out. At the last minute, checking out of the hotel, I said, were there any last minute cancellations? Oh, we just had one. So we did have a place to stay besides the Coast Guard floor. So now it's Sunday and we get underway. We go to Whittier, and even getting out of Whittier to Anchorage on 4th of July weekend we couldn't, I'm calling up friends. I could get you, but traffic's going to be really bad. And then Penny shows up with a motor coach. Not even sure what a motor coach is, but apparently it's a big bus, and they came and got us and took us and dropped us off at the airport. And she said, I'm going to have my guys haul your gear. I'm like, no, we're good. Yeah, 2 young guys come out, haul all our gear to the airport. I'm like, oh, this is okay. We can deal with this. And we make it back to Juneau. And just tons of people that helped out that I want to thank. They're all listed here. It took a whole community. Oh yeah, just this one quote from Ed. And Ed's the main disentanglement guy on the West Coast. And he just said this is one of the best operations he's seen. He was super impressed. Thanks to everybody that helped out. We couldn't have done it without the community. He said it was just top notch the way everybody participated and helped us out. And it was just an excellent example of how it's supposed to work in a tough situation. Okay, I think got a couple more, and this is just how you can help type of stuff. Don't get close to whales. Here's a buoy. You come racing up in your little boat to try to get a close look. There's 300 feet of line behind this whale. Get that caught in your prop, you're toast. The whale's gonna flip your boat. My other big point is do not get in the water. Never get in the water. If you get caught in the gear, you're toast. They're gonna gill net's sticky, everything's sticky. Yeah, wait for trained help. And then these are just yeah, there's a course, online course you can do, and people you can contact if you need help. So yeah, thank you. Yes.
Thanks. I don't know how long you've been doing this, but over, say, a 5-year period, how many of these incidents have you had to deal with in Alaska?
In Alaska, I tried to add them up one time. I think I've done probably 15 or 20 responses. I did 2 or 3 last year, 1 this year, probably 1 or 2 a year is what I usually do. Yep. Sometimes more if they're local, we'll get out there, but it's not very common that we get out there. We get a lot more calls, but they're just, we saw a entangled whale, but we never find it again. That happens a lot.
We've got one in the back.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask my question now? Okay.
Oh, you are.
Of the 8 that you have yearly, is there a ratio of gear type that they get caught in most?
That's a good question. A lot of pot gear. If they're, around where there's gill net fisheries, it can be gill nets. During the heat wave, the blob years, we saw a change, and they were getting caught in things like mooring lines and anchors and log booms. Like they'd change their behavior. They were in new habitats trying to find food closer to shore type of thing. So it does change. I think they moved that, I think it was the gray cod fishery moved in closer to shore and using pots in Dutch Harbor, and those started showing up in the entanglements more. Yeah, so there's one back there.
Is this your day job?
This is not my day job. This is my, I don't know, not even a night job. It's just, yeah, I'm just on standby for this.